Hey, I'm Daniel Berger, and this is Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Welcome to the podcast where Metro New York real estate meets great stories and a douse of humor. Forget the dry sales talk. Here we dive into the fun and unexpected moments of real estate. Join me each week as we explore Westchester, Long Island, the Bronx, and more. You'll hear about the people, the places, and the crazy situations that make this industry so interesting. Thanks to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, we're ready to share the lighter side of real estate. Whether you're a pro, a buyer, or just curious, we've got something for everyone. Ready for today's adventure? Let's get into it. Welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I'm Daniel Berger. Today I'm excited to have Cindy Quade on the call with us. She comes with us with 35 years of experience, real estate experience. She's the broker owner of Signature One Realty, that's in upstate New York, Saratoga County, and other areas around there. I was excited to have her on because with a lot of the things that are going on with big name brands, I love to have somebody with a boutique name, a boutique style that really cares about service, expertise, honesty, and honesty, not just honesty, but honesty through education and knowledge. So with that, I wanted to welcome Cynthia.
Thank you so much.
You know, what's interesting is I've always said it's not really the name of the sign that's on your lawn that sells your lawn, that sells your house or helps buy a house. It's really the quality of the individual, right, that you're dealing with.
It really is. And that's still true today. It's always been that way. And really, it comes down to this is a relationship business, not to be cliche, but it is really the individual that brings it forward.
Every brokerage likes to say that they have the it technology, but in the end of the day, really everybody has the same. When you put things on the market, all buyers get to see it, and then it's about dealing with people, right?
Yeah, it is. It's funny. I just did a video, and every once in a while, I'll just have one of those moments where I just snap. And it was something that someone had put out there, and we've all seen it before, the 99-point marketing plan. And it just was like, I've had enough of that. If you can recite 99 unique individual things that you do to market a home that is actually effective, I want to hear it. Because there's tons of things. Certainly put it in the MLS and it goes out to hundreds of websites. But when it comes to tools and technology, it can be unique. There are some things that do separate us, but the reality is, and I think about tools in general as a toolbox, right? What's in your toolbox? We got a ton of stuff in our toolbox, but we really only use about two or three things, right? Hammer, screwdriver. And so you really want to hone in when you're talking about tools and thinking about tools, is really hone in on the ones that are truly effective, the ones you're going to use, and the ones that make a difference.
It's the bells and whistles might be nice, but I don't really know if that actually sells a house. You talked about putting things in the MLS. How about putting things in the MLS correctly, right? Because how many listings do you know that the information is not correct? So the more that we're able to do all our legwork, right, and make sure that you're listing a house based off of what the property card says. You have the proper owners of the house in with the proper names, and you have a proper property condition disclosure report. And if you have surveys, the more information, the better. And having it correct, because a lot of times that's more of the things that get things tied up. And then again, while I know that the phones have come a long way in what their cameras are, having a professional photographer with floor plans and all those things it's really just blocking and tackling, right? It's not something that you should have. It's really more of the hard work that you're going to do to properly show a listing.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's so simple to just do it right the first time and get it in there. It saves
Well,
so much. And so often we're chasing that information.
Cynthia, I don't think if it was that simple, then we wouldn't be talking about it. And it would be the case that all listings had all that information. I guess one problem with, I'm all like, you're a veteran, 35 years. While I'm old, I'm about to start my ninth year. So
There you go. Listen,
I feel like a newbie.
I tell everybody, I joke that they can all thank me for lock boxes because I come from that era where there were lock boxes, or I'm sorry, where there were not lock boxes. And I was the worst with keys. We used to have to schedule the appointments and then run around, pick up the keys, show the property, bring the keys back. I would not bring the keys back. I was like, I was popping them in the mail. We've come a long way, and technology can help, but it can be one of those things that we have to really pay attention to also.
Lockboxes is a great example, right? Because there are still people that use combo lockboxes. And you want to know who's in the house when they access the house, especially whether it's a vacant house, whatever. And combo lockboxes also potentially have where lazy agents don't even go, and they just give the code to their clients and have at it. And
Or not
those are
even
things that
tumble the
shouldn't be
code.
done.
Yeah, or they don't even tumble the code. They leave it whatever the numbers were to open it. Here you go, everybody. No, it's a funny business. And like you said, I'm a small brokerage by design. We really focus on service, very strong on education, making sure everyone here is full-time, experienced, knowledgeable. I oversee everything. I'm not a micromanager, although it sounds like it, but just really making sure, like you were saying, that the data is right. So I know every listing that we have, and I know that the ad copy and the descriptions and that everything's put together, and the agents understand that. And I'm also on the ground doing it myself. And so I can't cut corners as a broker owner because I'm an example to the others. We have to do it the right way.
I might as well be a boutique brokerage because so while I do have the balloon and all that with Remax, that was more of just a way to for me to really set up my brokerage. But in the end of the day, Remax really, as an example for me, there it's basically I pay my franchise fee and I pay whatever, but for the most part, they're not telling me what to do. So it's basically
Right.
I just have to follow what I feel is the proper way to do my business and to go on from there. But so you it's interesting because the whole point of being a broker. So for I became a broker actually before the 2 years of you needing to be a real estate agent because there's actually a couple of back ways to do it. Because and I learned this, I guess this was good for me to go to school, but my teacher had brought up the idea that when you actually check into a hotel, that's considered a one night lease. And so you're actually able to use all your hotel stays counting as the points needed to become a broker. So I actually became a broker in New York State faster than the 2 years, leveraging those, buying my own house, other investments, and then also
Okay.
actually using checking into hotels. But really, it's a little I do it a little different because I view my agents more as independent contractors, but clearly having the brokerage that you're responsible for, we're responsible for by law and insurance and all that to make sure that things are done properly. I like to help my agents run their business. So I'm probably less into what their copy is, but that doesn't mean that I don't look at what they are and make suggestions. That's really being a broker is like you said about overseeing, we're also being a mentor, right? We mentor other people and train and educate and try to bring those things maybe, oh, maybe we would word it this way, or why is that the first picture of your listing? Because it's sometimes it my view is it should really be your money shot, not necessarily the front of your house, if that's not,
100%.
and those trying to make those tweaks and do things from experience. And you have 35 years of experience, which in 35 years, there must be so many different shifts in the market. Are we
Yeah.
in a shift now in New York?
When you say shifts, I think of a lot of different things. I think of market shift, I think of industry shift. And one of the things that comes to my mind, if I have to think of like right now, if I think of the industry shift, there has been more shifts in this past year or 18 months than we've ever seen from a business standpoint. Market, we are just in our area at least, and I'm in the capital region, so I'm a multi-county broker. We have a pretty large area that we serve, but our MLS is not that large. Respectively to other marketplaces, I think we have about 3,500 agents in our MLS. So we have a large geographic area, but not a large MLS. But we're just starting to see a market shift as far as from real estate market. Industry shift has been off the charts, I think. I've seen so much change and it's at lightning speed. But I know other marketplaces from a real estate perspective they've started their shift several months ago and in other parts of the country, but we're just starting to see it. And this has been the longest seller's market that I've ever seen in my career. We've been in a seller's market since probably 2018, and then it got really amped up during COVID and has just been nonstop ever since. And now this past month is really when we have started to it's still a seller's market, but it's pinched a little bit.
With my 8 and 9 years, it's really a seller's market. And I went for maybe a year straight of showings every day. It was crazy, right? And it still is crazy. But what's interesting is, so I agree, it's still a seller's market. I think though that because of this bull run of sellers, agents and rightfully kept increasing what list price should be, and not necessarily with reason, right? Because you see, if you're doing listings, you're probably, not everyone does this, but I do buyers and sellers, and so I'm really knowing what's going on both sides of the market. But you keep pushing the envelope on list price, and we've driven it up so high. And so while you're saying that there's a shift, it's really, it's so inflated what list price is, so inflated. And yet you're still potentially getting those numbers. And the ones that at this point seems like that are getting the numbers the most are the ones that are move-in ready, but still priced
Yeah.
really high. The ones that maybe aren't are the ones that maybe 2 years ago would have sold, because anything you put on the market would have sold.
Yes.
Those basically have to come back in price before you get that. But people are still trying, and you're still getting close. So it's right when people say, "Oh, it's over list price," that all
So
depends on how much you're stretching.
yeah, a couple things. Like in our area, inventory has been down. We have a lot of buyers. We also have listings. Our listings are gone in 20, they were 24, 48 hours. Now we're at about 30 days, and that's not too bad, although sellers' mindsets are still in 2023 and
Right,
buyers are in
because historically that's still
2008. But I think what happened is, at least my perspective of this is, with the rising prices, people ask me, what do you think of this home? And I'd be like, you know what? I can't even guess. For me, it's not worth it. This house it shouldn't be more than this, but you know what? Somebody's going to come along and they're going to pay it. And that's what we saw. People paying absolutely everything. And I think that because there was such little inventory, that buyers were so anxious and so tired of looking, because we worked with buyers for a year plus just to find a home, not much to see, and losing out on multiple offers. I think that they felt like, as anyone that was like their forever home, or at least a home they'd be in for 15 years, they figured, you know what? Buy now, they know it's high. Over time, it'll balance out. But you have to be careful, because you don't want to have what happened in 2008, or 7 and 8, where you have that market crash. I do think for us in this area, from a national standpoint, we're still somewhat affordable, and our price points, probably all market driven, under a certain price point, there's still low inventory and the homes are gone and we're still in multiple offers. When you get in the little bit higher end or luxury market, that's starting to really correct itself.
agree. It's one pet peeve of mine are agents who go on social media if they're the listing agent, and say how much over list they got. And because my view is, you're embarrassing the buyers and sticking it to them that they spent
Right,
250,000 over. And
right.
also you could argue that you just mispriced the market, because if you were really attuned, you would know what this house would get. And
Yeah,
again, I don't
I mean,
even
it's
know
a
why you need to
strategy.
do that.
It's a strategy. It's really, I think, I always tell this to sellers too. The most difficult part I find as a listing agent, marketing your property is easy, driving it, getting eyes on all of that. The hardest part is picking that right number to put on the home, especially in a market like we've had, because the price is so fluid. It's hard to keep up on pricing. Our prices just increased incredibly.
Well, I think what you're saying is correct. My view is more of the agents that try to gloat in social
Right.
media,
Oh,
where, so my posts are always really thanking everyone for working together. I had a client who basically, I sold a house where it was one of the highest price per square foot in my town. But yet I never wrote that. And I never brought up I never bring up price ever
I'm the same way. I'm the same.
because what's,
Yeah, I never put my clients on social media. They have to actually ask me to. I just don't. I know that a lot of people,
when we close, I do a picture if they want
yeah,
it, holding the sign,
yeah.
but
And
generally
my
don't
agents
tag.
do, and the clients love it. I just get weirded out. But I agree with you 100% on that. It's just,
Yeah, so that I think that's something that's important. As a broker for so many years and an owner, tell me some of the qualities that you feel define what a top agent is.
for me, I really, and this kind of gets into social media too. It just rings to me where brokers will bring on new agents and they'll say, here's your real estate expert. Got the person's had their license for 24 hours. All of a sudden they're an expert. Top producing to me is really someone who's got real true market mastery. I think it also is someone who has a really super strong work ethic and really displays a lot of integrity and is honest. And I think that I always think that when you really know your stuff, you master the market, you do your homework, you keep yourself educated, you're true and you're honest and sincere and genuine, everything else will come. And you just trust that. And so for me, that's what defines a top producing agent, someone that I would, if I were a consumer, I would want to help me with my real estate needs. Not just someone that's doing millions and millions of dollars. That's great. That's definitely top producing. But for me, it's more than that.
For I for me, really, I originally I paid for Zillow leads, and I got buyer leads that came
Yeah,
in, and I would work with them for any price point, and a lot of them were low in the beginning because I knew that buyers at some point become sellers, and buyers who are satisfied have friends, family, colleagues that will refer you. And so
right.
the way that I built my business was, if I could work towards a great review, then that was my plan. Not about what the money, it's irrelevant. The paychecks will come with satisfying clients. And part of my shtick is that you can call or text me 24/7, and I'm probably going to reply 18/7. In our business, that's how I've done it. There's some agents that set different boundaries than I do, where they're like, where they'll say on their voicemail, after 5 o'clock, I'm not calling you back until tomorrow. And you know what? Everyone's got to do what they feel is best. I'm an empty nester with two dogs, and it's a little different that for me than it would be for someone else. And what someone else does is, that's the whole point of them being an independent contractor. They're going to build their business the way
Right.
that they want to build the business, and somebody else can do it in a different way. It's interesting. I feel though that mastery, I've taken it more from working with people, right? So it's really not about the house so much. It's about people and personalities and understanding, like if it's a buyer, understanding what their goals, aspirations, and the budgets are, and then and then work with them. You said something interesting about, oh, is this house worth it? Or do you like the house, right? What our view is of the like is really irrelevant,
Right.
right? Because You might like a swimming pool or not, but what does this family want? If this family desires a house with a swimming pool, then if I don't like a pool, it's not. And it's the same thing with other aspects of the house, right? We have to know what are their wants and needs, and then try to help support having them, if they're a buyer, to buy something like that, or if it's a seller, what does the seller need? I have sellers that we're like, we're trying to buy something else, we need to rent back. And so you have to find buyers that will allow that to happen in order really to be successful. And every case is different, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's
And
all about servicing and understanding and listening.
you talk about hard work, I try to push newer agents away from my brokerage because, like you said too, it's not about size, it's about the people that you want to have work in your brokerage. And obviously, all new people are like, our time sucks for us in a sense, right? You have to get them up to speed, you have to work with them, and you have to make sure that they're doing the right things. So, from time people that are newer who don't really understand the business, you're like, I lay it out. And sometimes people are like, I want to work with you. And then they come on board and you're like, but they're not committed to open houses or they're part-time. What's your view on part-time agents?
I liked part-time agents. I hate to say that way and that bluntly. I do have two part-time agents right now, and they work like full-time agents. The problem, and they're great, they're fantastic. And one is a school teacher. She's wonderful. She's nurturing, and she's got a great personality, great with her clients. And she's off in summer, so that does help. And when she's off at 2:30, she dives in and she gets a lot done. So that works. But in general, I think that for me in this market, and when I say the market, I'm talking about the real estate market, but I'm more talking about the business and the way the industry is, with all of the rules and regulations and all of the changes and all of the things that are constantly changing and updating. Part-time does not work well for me because keeping those agents up to speed is very difficult. Whereas the full-time people, they're engaged all the time, part-time is not. I get the fact that newer agents may not be able to do that. So one of the things, like, I ask if it's a newer agent, and ideally, obviously, bringing in a more seasoned agent can be more beneficial to a brokerage. The first thing I ask them is why they are choosing real estate and what do they think this job is? What do they think it is? And for me, that's a really important question to understand, because at the end of the day, it is a sales job. And I want to know, like, a lot of times you'll have somebody say, I really want a flexible schedule. You know what? This is the most inflexible schedule you will ever have.
No, it's flexible if you work all the time. And it's very
Right.
flexible. It's very flexible, but it's not a
You,
put your phone down job, right? It's
no,
not flexible like that.
you
It can
have to
be.
be flexible.
It can be if you have a Rolodex of people who want to sell homes and all you do is list homes. Then it's a little bit more flexible because you can take pictures on your schedule. You can schedule open houses. You can't not be available on weekends. Maybe you could, because maybe you could
Right.
also try to have other agents in your office that are conducting those open houses. So it's different. But in order, in my 8 full years now, I started much more as a buyer's agent. But then as you deal with buyers, I think it was year 3 that I did 52 deals and 26 were buyers and 26 were listings, because I started coming full circle.
Right.
For me, it's always funny when people are like, I'm just a listing agent. I'm like, how could you even say that? Can, by giving your buyers, but
Right.
sometimes I'm thinking, Cynthia, that when people work with you, they want to work with you.
They do.
They don't want
Yeah.
you to say, oh,
Yeah.
who else in your
Absolutely.
office can I work with? Because it's a relationship business. It's interesting. You say we're in sales. I come from a background in sales and marketing. I worked in the beverage world for Poland Spring. I worked in coffee for Green Mountain Coffee. Those are like 20 years of working in bottled water and coffee. And that's a little bit more like selling. I worked for Poland Spring when water is free and it wasn't really like you didn't have the small
Oh, yeah.
bottles. People are like, Why would we pay for water? We get it from the tap. And then I was the original sales manager for the K Cup. And they're like, why are we going to pay 60, 75 cents a cup of coffee? We can get it for 8 cents a cup.
Right, that's
That
funny.
was
That's
selling.
self.
That's
Yeah,
selling on value and,
right.
and all that other stuff. I don't think that I sell at all in real estate. I'm not selling. We're customer service and
Right.
client
And
care.
yeah, and that's when I do obviously a lot of training and coaching and mentoring and all of that. But that's the one thing in general, people don't like salespeople. And I would never take a sales job. And I don't believe my philosophy is that you cannot sell someone something they don't want. And so the way I approach this business is I give people all the information they need to make a decision. I make no decisions for them. I help them. I give them the information that they need to get there. And when it's a right fit, when I work with buyers, and I don't work with a tremendous amount at this time, but when I do, I talk them out of more homes than I talk them into. And that's, to me, that's really important that, because I am their eyes. I see things that they aren't going to see because they're looking at the kitchen, they're looking this, and I'm looking up, I'm looking down, I'm looking at corners, I'm looking at everything. And so that's really how I do it. And I have such great relationships. I love my clients. I have some of my best friends have come from this business. And it just, the most rewarding thing is to have someone purchase a home from you that they absolutely love. It's just the greatest feeling. And the worst feeling in the world is to have someone buy a home from you that they don't like at all. And it
Well,
just,
yeah, you talked about that you don't ever sell it. You know what? You can sell a house because you can be that used car salesman getting them. They'll buy one house and
right.
then they'll never buy or work with you again and they won't refer. And that's really, so you probably could. That's not the methodology.
Never going
Ours
to
is,
feel good. It's never, for me, it's never going to feel good. And that's one of the things like about this office. And that's really making sure that anyone that comes in here, they're here for the right reasons, that they really just want to service people. On getting back to part-time, one of my things that's very important is that it's okay if you're going to be part-time as long as you have a full-time goal. If you have a full-time goal that's in the very near future, ideally though, I do think that part-time in this business is, especially for larger brokers, like Remax has a great brand name, and you're also known for smaller teams and just a lot more professionalism. I don't know if I should say that or not, but in the large firms, I think it's impossible to have it where there's hundreds of agents and they're all at the same level. It just, and when you start mixing in, I have 100 agents and 65 are part-time, I just don't think that's great for the business. I don't think it's
well,
great for the consumer.
but I don't know if buyers and sellers know that because ultimately, so yeah, there is a big, the Remax has a name, but really it's my brokerage, right? I own my brokerage and I'm not that big, right? So it's really dealing with me if you're picking me or dealing with one of my agents. So I don't
Right.
know if the other stuff matters, but the bigger issue with part-time is that clients fall in Texas all the time. And listen, in the age of digital technology, people want an answer, right? So if you're in a job that you're not allowed to have your phone out and whatever, and you're not responding for 5, 6 hours, is problematic unless all of your clients know who you are, right? So if all of your clients, all of your buyers know you're a school teacher and that from 7:30 to 2:30, you're probably not answering except if it's during lunch, then
Right.
you're available until 10 o'clock at night or whatever the time is. You've set the proper expectations, right? That's really a lot of what it is. But ultimately, if you especially that you said it's been a seller's market. In the seller's market, when one of our clients asks about a house and wants to see it, you need to
Yeah.
go see it today, tomorrow, the next day. That's it, period. Today, tomorrow,
Really.
the next. Every time someone's at this house, I give them the information. I'm like, when are we going to see it? Because it's on other days, or at least now, that I'll make an appointment next weekend or whenever, because it's not going to be available. So much so that we have to do maybe some FaceTime. It's so much that you need to go see it that maybe if our client lives somewhere else or they're away, whatever, we're going to go and we're going to FaceTime from them, or we're going to do a visual and to
Absolutely.
understand maybe it's right, maybe it's not right. And so we're going to do more of that. So that's probably where virtual assistants and bots and AI and all that stuff can't really go into the house. You and I can go in the house and look up and look down and give
Right.
people advice. Is that proper? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
I would argue that. So I am not a fan of the National Association of Realtor NAR settlement. I think that they basically sold all agents down the river. Only they did it so that they would stop being sued, is my opinion. And I think
People are
they
still
made
getting sued.
right, and they made the world much murkier than before. It used to be more transparent, right? Where if you were a buyer's agent, you'd see on the MLS, oh, this is the commission that's being offered to by the seller to the buyer's agent. It could have been zero. It could be it could be any number, but you see it. And now it's basically become opaque, right? Where it's not allowed to be there. You can't even discuss it. You have to email. It's the craziest thing now. When agents, the first thing they're asking, is it available? And they're only asking that because agents aren't good enough to keep the MLS updated to say if it is or isn't, right? If you did, then you wouldn't have to ask. And what's the commission?
Yeah. It's the whole NAR settlement has created such confusion. And another example of, and I'm not knocking part-time agents, but it is really hard. I will tell you though, that it's been easier on newer agents, certainly than older agents in the business for a long time. But it's just such common sense. And I hear a lot of the banter from agents being like so like mind boggled over it. I think that I've researched the history of the whole thing with the DOJ and NAR and all this and DOS. And this has been for decades and decades. And I don't like how they resolved it. I guess the settlement in and of itself, as far as from a financial aspect, they were in the corner. That was going to happen. You had Anywhere settle, and there were other brokerages that settled, but that was going down the pike. It was the rules that they put in place defy logic to me.
Again, they
And
only had to settle because they had bad lawyering. Because basically, if they would have looked at my book of business, remember the initial case was in Kansas City, Missouri, and I guess all commissions must be pretty identical, or even more horrible lawyering. If you looked at my book of business and what the commissions are, you would see every number, right? Because I don't tell my agents what they do. They're independent
yeah,
contractors.
yeah.
They do from negotiating with their buyers and sellers what their rates are. So it's the market forces are working. But what's crazy is, and I think you were inferring this, is that we're over a year past, so they've done the math, and the math shows that actually commissions have gone up. So it's done the opposite effect of what they thought, where it was always consistent to it's gone up now because now what do buyers know, right? So it's nuts how that's even happened.
Things like this, whenever there's like a big change, I think the biggest problem that I see, at least in our area from this business, is that you have the opportunists. And when there is a change, especially like this, in media is out there, it's confusing to the consumer. And agents were confused in and of itself. So you have that. And once the agent's caught up, now it's trying to basically dismantle all the negative publicity and the misleading information. So we're combating that, which is tackling a big problem. And then add to that opportunists. So I find in situations like this, you'll have opportunists come in and they do create even more confusion for the consumer. And then we have to combat that as well. And it's a tough business. And that has been probably the largest shift. We've got mergers and acquisitions, which is a massive shift right now. And so there's a lot, and you really have to be really in it and understand it. I'm not saying that I do fully understand it. I'm more of a strategic planner. So I just like, and I do like to look at what's going on, and I'd love to be able to anticipate the future, but anyone who tells you they know what's going to happen is they don't know we don't know. We can surmise, we can have some intuition and just be ready to combat those things. But consumers are really well informed. But when it came to the commissions and things like that, was the one arena that just what I would hear was just all over the board, from no understanding at all to we don't have to pay anybody to just
You know,
crazy.
in essence, while I think it never should have happened, but it was crazy. But it turned out that much better for seasoned agents or smart agents, right? Because the smarter agent would be able to take the information and the misinformation and turn it into something that made sense to their buyers and their sellers, right? Because both. So agents that were either, it doesn't matter if you were full-time or part-time, but if you were not as skilled, less skilled agents were tripping over their feet with it because they didn't understand it. And of course, like you said, there are the opportunists who inflate things to the detriment of clients, but
Right.
also in New York, you have to have those documents. The buyer's agent agreement has to be signed before you even show house one. And
It's a tough thing.
not everyone does that. But on the other hand, it allows better agents to say, I'm sure you can find people who will not follow the rules and regulations. You can do that in any industry. But to work with any of Cynthia's agents, to work with any of mine, we follow the rules and regulations.
Listen,
So,
here's the
right,
bottom
if you
line.
don't
I
want to
tell
sign it,
people,
don't sign it then, but then we can't help you because we
I get
follow the
it.
rules.
I get it. And I tell buyers this too, and my agents do. I wouldn't sign a contract with someone I don't know and have never met. And that's really intimidating. We do it one time because we don't know if we want to work with them long term either. And we do hear that from buyers. I've been shown this. And we actually just had a situation where somebody was in a contract and they had no buyer agency agreement. I just say to them, I don't know about you, but I don't want my realtor to not obey the law. It's not just a
I,
rule, it's the law. And it's not just New York State, it's the whole country. So anyone who's violating that, how could they possibly have your best interest if they're going forward in real estate, starting off breaking the law? It's just, we're not going to do it.
so I don't know if the buyer's agency is actually a law. I think it's in order to be a realtor and to be considered in NAR, it's their rules and regulations. So if you don't do it, there are fines and you can be thrown out of NAR.
It
I
is
don't
set forth by the DOJ. Anyone in NAR, that is the law. It's not
right.
just
So if
our,
you're not, so if you're in one of the other MLSs that are not in NAR, then you probably so it's really I think it's more of a stipulation in the DOJ that requires you to do it if you're a realtor. But technically, if you're not in NAR and you're in like New York State MLS as an example, you don't have to do it because
so,
they didn't sign that agreement.
correct. So
But
the thing is,
it's certainly confusing, and it's certainly though for us that are both in our MLSs a requirement, right? It's absolutely a requirement, and you can get fined and kicked out if you don't properly do that.
and,
So
yeah,
it's
and
like a
it's
law.
the dismantling of NAR. It's the
Right.
dismantling of NAR.
So it is crazy. I took the piece of paper that they gave us. It wasn't a piece of paper because it was 7 pieces of paper, and I created my own document, my own buyer's agent agreement that is non-exclusive. Right. So I tried to make it as easy as possible. I don't do exclusives. I've never done an
Right.
exclusive. It's for the properties that we show you. And what's also interesting is what's crazy about the document is that we have to say what our commission is as a buyer's agent day one before we even showed you anything. That's and we're not allowed to have a sliding scale, whatever. But it's good when you're married to a lawyer and your daughter's a lawyer, so you're able to come up with stuff. So that's what so we have to work with the way that my document goes is that people do have to sign it and we do have a number. But we do, and you're not allowed to write this in the document. You have to orally tell them that things can change based off of the house that you buy, and we can reassess at another point because you can always amend a contract, right? Two people can amend a contract. So generally, if whatever reason we either go lower or go higher, we amend that initial buyer's agreement, which is NAR doesn't really want to do that. They haven't really said you can, but you can because NAR can't tell me that I'm allowed
Absolutely.
to amend a contract.
They
So
can't tell you what your value
exactly.
is. Yeah, no, they can't
So
tell you any of that.
they said that you have to put it down from the beginning. So that's not really true because any contract, two parties can always amend a
No,
contract.
always amend it. Absolutely.
Exactly. So but again, not every brokerage is going to do that, and I would argue that maybe the bigger ones won't do that because it's harder, it's more legal stuff, and that's why I love that you're a boutique, and I feel like I act like I'm boutique because that is the good thing about Remax is they've never discussed what I need to do. It's not, that is not the arrangement. It's basically maybe creating a brokerage in a box that I can then take and do whatever I want in my box, which is
Which is
why
nice.
yeah, exactly. Because like you, if it was any different, I'd become a broker. I'd become boutique
Right.
because you're a businesswoman and you're operating your business the way that you want to operate your business. And that's the beautiful thing. And I'm assuming that that's what drives you. That's also what drives agents to come want to work for you. And what have we've been on for, wow, we've been on for 45 minutes. I would absolutely, the good news is now that I know when I have clients in the capital region, I certainly know who to refer to because you seem lovely. You're
Thank
talented. You
you.
you you understand what's going on, and I don't really. People don't. It's not about the house. It's never about the house, right? It's about the people that you're working with, the agent who cares about you, that's going to put in a long day with hard days work, full days work. And you know what? We don't have to be the subject matter experts except for the things that we're the subject matter expert for. But in construction, problems with septic or problems with roofs or what, we bring people in that understand those aspects of it, and we're like the quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah, well put.
So again, for people that are in the Saratoga, Albany, the capital area,
We just
certainly
come off our highlight season too. The track,
ooh,
horse racing, all that.
exactly.
It's big here.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
Signature One Realty Group, Cynthia she's the person. And if whether working with her or working with people in her brokerage, you're not going to go wrong. And so I'm going to do another pitch. So Cynthia, I'm only 9 years in, but I wrote a book on the
Nice.
adventures of a real estate broker. Highlights that one of my clients, I showed 205 houses to over 13 months. I wouldn't fire them because why would I fire somebody who, in the end of the day, ended up referring three other of their houses as well as some of their friends and family. So,
Fabulous.
but so that's and you have 35 years of experience. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some good stories in there. So
That's right.
but you're probably too busy in this seller's market, actually busting it and mentoring and training and educating people to be able to write a book. So that's why I did.
Good for
But
you. Great.
I appreciate your time, and I'm excited that people can learn a little bit about you and your brokerage and about what it's like to either be an agent or to be a buyer and seller. So thank you
Thank
very much for coming on.
thank you so much for inviting me. This was fun.
Absolutely. So everyone, it's Daniel Berger with the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. Thanks for tuning in, and until next week, thank you again. Thanks for joining me on the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. I hope you enjoyed our time together as much as I did. If you laughed, learned something, or just had a good time, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the podcast. A big shout out to our sponsor, Remax Prestige Properties, for making this all possible. Remember to leave a review if you enjoyed the show. It helps more people find us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep exploring the adventures in your neighborhood. I'm Daniel Berger, your New York Realtor, and I'll see you in the next episode.